everyone, it's me again. I often get asked questions about what time to harvest garlic here in central Maine. Well, I first want to say that we actually plant our garlic here in central Maine at the end of October. I've actually planted it like the first week of November. Basically, you want to plant your garlic cloves right before the ground freezes so that if we have temperature change, your garlic cloves do not sprout and then get frost damage. So end of October, first week of November here in central Maine. And then you'll see it'll be the first thing in your garden to sprout up in the spring. You'll be so proud when you see the nice long line of green coming up out of the ground. And I often get asked, when do you pull up your garlic? And that's a really great question. This is about my 5th or 6th year now harvesting garlic, and I'll tell you, it's tricky even for me. But I have learned that here in central Maine, that we usually harvest our garlic the end of July, the first week of August-ish. But the true test is the garlic itself. When there are 4 or 5 green leaves still on the plant, that is when you would want to harvest your garlic. So basically there'll be about a leaf or 2 that are turning brown and decaying. If you go past that, your garlic actually starts to separate, and the soil goes in there and you cannot clean the garlic, which then that type of garlic will not store very well. So what I say is, when there's 4 to 5 green leaves on your garlic, dig up a couple, see what they look like. They should be tight, uniform, not overgrown and splitting. And what you want to do is you want to take your garlic and just take off any dirt that's on the bottom as much as you can. But you want to leave the roots here. I call them garlic beards. You want to leave the garlic beards on. Just take off as much dirt as you can. Try to shake off as much dirt as you can on the garlic cloves. But don't go too crazy, because if you hang them and dry them at about 80-degree temperature in an area that has a breeze, in about 2 weeks, the dirt will actually start to fall right off of them. As you can see, I'm going to do one right here for you. And see, it's papery. That's what you want. So this garlic has been sitting for about, well, I should say hanging for about 3 weeks. And it is relatively looking good. When you hang your garlic, it depends on how much you have. You can hang 3 to 4 bulbs together in clumps. I actually did more than that. It's not recommended, but it is what I have limited space here. Once the garlic actually starts to dry, that's when you would want to cut off the garlic beards. You don't do so beforehand, because the leaves and the garlic beards actually are a vital role in the drying process of your garlic. So that's basically it. So just keep it dry and air flowing through. I have a great big window here in my shed. I open up the doors every day and let the air flow through. Never dry garlic in the sun. Garlic is always dried in a shady area with lots of breeze. That is preferred. So pretty soon here, I'm going to actually cut my garlic stems. I'm going to cut my garlic beards. And then I'm going to let them dry like on a screen for another couple weeks. And then I will store them in my home. And they will be stored in my cold room, not a root cellar, in a cold room where you would store winter squash and onions, those type of crops, sweet potatoes. That's where your garlic goes, in your cold room. And your garlic will last all the way until probably about July of the following year. And even still, if your garlic starts to go bad and start to sprout, what you want to do is just pull them apart, and you can freeze the garlic. It won't be the same, but you can, just to extend the season. But this garlic will last quite a long time. This variety is actually Red Russian, and I have a couple here that are music. The other question that people ask me is about whether or not to cut the garlic scapes or to leave them on to produce bulbils. Well, I've actually experimented with that both ways. And I've been to classes where they say that it doesn't matter which way you do it. Some people say that the bulbs get larger if you cut off the scapes. Some people say that if you leave the scapes on and they create bulbules, the energy goes into two areas and you end up with smaller bulbs. So one year I actually left the garlic scapes on to produce bulbules, and that year my garlic bulbs were actually smaller. So from my personal experience, I say cut your garlic scapes. And this year I actually cut them, and the bulbs are relatively on the large side. They look pretty good. Now I've been saving my own seed for about 5 or 6 years. I will take the best seed here, the best bulbs, and I will split them, and I will actually replant this garlic again come October and November. So it's a full cycle. And if you do end up with garlic bulbules and you plant those little garlic bulbs, they will become golf ball size the following year. You need to pull those out and replant them, and then they produce these larger ones. I've experimented with all that. Honestly, I just like going for the larger bulbs. It's just a 1-year crop versus the other way is a 2-year crop. The only thing I can say is I have heard in classes that the garlic bulbules is the truest form of the garlic, that they haven't touched the soil, and that they are disease-free, because there are a lot of diseases for garlic. So if it's up to you what you want to do. I have heard folks say that on their farms they had disease with their garlic in the ground, but they used their bulbules to replant, and their bulbules were disease-free, and they were actually able to create that garlic stalk again in about 2 years. So that's my garlic talk today. If you have any questions, just send me an email. Thank you. Happy garlic harvest!